Hi there. So I've been asked to do a quick video on how I sharpen my images for photoreal. It's a fairly simple process. I use Photoshop not because it's the best program out there. It's just the one that I'm really used to using. I've been using it for years. My wife uses Lightroom and loves it. I have no idea how to do this in Lightroom, but maybe somebody else can chime in on that. So I'm going to show you how to do it in Photoshop. It's actually quite easy, and so let's get going. You want to pick an image that has a little bit of fine detail. So the image that I've got here is one that I took when I was out hiking. It's a stump and it's got, lots of neat stuff in it. It's got some pine needles and, all kinds of things that give you sharp edges. And for this particular type of sharpening to work, you need to have fine edges. If you look at the screen here, you'll see on the right-hand side where the layers are, and it says background. That's what we're going to be working with. So what we're going to do is we're going to right mouse click on our mouse, and we're going to create a copy of this background. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go, background layer. Click on that. Give it a name. I'm going to call it HighPass Filter. Hit OK. And there we go. Now we've got our copy. That's the one that we're going to be working with. We could be working with the other one, but I prefer to use layers. That way we can turn things on and off and experiment with it. So next thing we got to do is go up to Filter. And we come all the way down to Other, and then click on High Pass. There, so that creates a mask for us. Now, what high pass does is it really looks for the fine edges. And you can see there's a radius function here and a little viewing screen that looks at 100%. Now if you crank it up, you'll see that things start to look pretty ugly pretty quick. You can really overdo this, and a lot of the images that you see on the internet that look really crunchy, maybe this is what they've done. There's a million different ways to sharpen an image, but for things that have defined edges, I think this is the best. What I do is dial it back until I can just see the effect, usually around 0.08, 0.9, sometimes up to 1.5. Once I save that, then we go back to that layer that's active, and we need to make that into an overlay so that we can actually see our picture. So we click on Overlay. You can experiment with some other ones, but Overlay works the best as far as I'm concerned. Now the image doesn't look drastically different if you noticed, but if we turn the layer on and off, you'll see that there is a little bit of a difference. We'll just kind of zoom in a little bit, and you'll be able to see the difference. Let's go over to some areas that actually have some really fine detail. So let's turn it off. There you go, turn it back on. So you should be able to see the difference, especially in areas where there is fine detail, like the needles and this area right here that has some really fine cracks and whatnot in the wood. Now you can always go back in some areas that seem to be a little bit lightened. You can go back in there and just dodge or burn those down just a tad, and everything will be just fine. Now you can't leave the image like this because you're going to need to save it as a JPEG. So you go up to Layer, and you're going to flatten this image. And there you go. Now we're back to just one layer, the original, and we're going to save it and save it as a JPEG. You can see I've been working in a TIFF file. I like to do a lot of my changes in a non-destructive format, which is TIFF, and then you can always go back and change things and you haven't lost things. So I just leave it at around 10 for images that are going to be going to photoreal. They don't need to be super high res. So go OK, and then that saves it as a JPEG. And now I want to resize it for photoreal. I usually bring the long side to 1100 pixels. OK. There we go. And then we're going to save it again. And just my own idiosyncrasy, so I know which image it is when I'm sending it up to photoreal, make it easy to find. I just put in the underscore 1100, and that tells me that's the resized image that I want to upload. And that basically does it.